I was a teenager and due to spend a day in bed recuperating from an accident. My room was sunny and it was a hot morning and I had an eggnog in a jug and a glass by the bed. Mum went off to see the neighbours along the hill because of the smoke, and her cousin had told her of a fire near Warrain. While she was away, Dad rang up from zinc works to see if we were okay. He could see the smoke in our vicinity from work and I couldn't tell him much except that Mum was out and the fire wasn't close to the house. I returned to the bedroom finding black ash sprinkled all over my drink, and that really ended my quiet day. Mum brought her 3 aunts, all over 80 years old, to the house and left again. I offered them cups of tea, but Aunt Dole wouldn't stay. She walked back towards their home, the turning, to see what was happening. I was ignorant of all the chaos along the hill. The story came pieced together later. The house, the turning, was built by Colonel Dennis Lane and his brothers and sisters around 1910. At one time they had about 120 acres, but during the 1940s and 50s the family gave land parcels to my mother and her cousins for them to build houses. So by 1967 there were 2 families of the older generation and several families of the younger generation living in the vicinity, composed of 80 acres of mostly farming land and bushland. The families and nearby neighbours, especially the Murfitts and Turners and Lathams, had decades of experience with summer firefighting of wildfires that were a threat to the area nearly every year. Fighting fires was a demanding task, always followed by cups of tea and a post-mortem, but it all went wrong in 1967. As everyone knows, there were many fires already burning in southern Tasmania, and some deliberately lit by arsonists on the day. We suffered one of those deliberate fires. Initially, my mother had gone to investigate smoke from fires burning near Warrain and the Rosny Golf Course. Fire crews had recruited assistance from volunteers, including prisoners from Riverton Jail. The volunteers were worried about the fire a wind change bringing the Warrain fire towards Linda's farm, and so for some reason they turned up at the turning. One remarked, "If the fire gets into all this long grass, this whole house will go up." It's true, the summer grass was very high about the house and its garden. Most of the house was made from asbestos sheeting with a tin roof, but the porch and the outhouse were wooden. Maybe it was a well-intended effort to try and bring a backburn towards the Warrain fire. Maybe it was a foolish impulse to set a fire. Who knows? But one of the firefighters said, "We need to light a backburn." Aunt Dole, aged 85, "No, don't light it here, it'll be uncontrollable." But he wouldn't listen. She said, "No, I must bring the stirrup pump full of water first." But she couldn't stop him and he pushed her out of the way and struck a match. Several metres from the house, the blaze was intense. My mother's cousin, Jeff Lane, was next door fighting, protecting his own house, but there were a lot of locals around who came to help. Mum ran home and grabbed the car to pick up the 3 old ladies and bring them to our house. She retrieved Aunt Bess, who was over 92 and almost bedridden, and who was being led away across the lawn by a volunteer. Bess said later, "I've no idea where he thought he was taking me, but I never would have made the distance." Aunt Dole and Aunt Ada both got into the car and Mum drove away like a fury, hoping Nurse Sparks would reach the car. Volunteers were removing items from the house and putting them on the lawn. Once started, the fire at the turning attacked the large wooden outhouse with greed. The building had been built in about 1907 and it had 3 rooms, a laundry, a toilet and a large storeroom and workshop area. What a lot of treasures there were inside the storeroom area. There was old farm equipment, horse harness, household items, tools, magazines, sheet music, tins, bottles and boxes of this and that, all dusty, surrounded by cobwebs on the dirt floor and dirty shelves. Possums frequented the area too. The most remarkable items there were the cartridges, detonators, gunpowder and even some gelignite. The explosion was unbelievable. The shed was only a couple of metres from the house and the fire attacked the nearby wooden back porch almost immediately. There are several tales of who saved the turning. There's a story of the person who axed a hole in the water tank so they could get the water out better. The story of the person who went into the bathroom and threw buckets of water up against the porch to quench the sparks and flames from taking hold. Anyway, later it was formally acknowledged that the valuable and sensible work of Nick Coe, my dad's brother-in-law, was the work that really saved the day. The house still has starred chuds supporting the porch, and there's also some charred post and rail fencing around the garden as the fire raced downhill towards Warrain. My mum drew the firefighters' attention to the Humpy, a wooden building constructed in 1905, which was full of hay bales in 1967. A friend from Warrain let the horse out and it sensibly galloped down to Turner's property, Malana, Flagstaff Gully, one of its favourite pastures. The firefighters saved the Humpy while the fire raced between it and a large wooden workshop that belongs to Jeff Lane, less than 100 metres away, which also was saved. Apparently that fire then met up with an existing fire down in the Warrain area and they were both extinguished. After the 67 fires, my mother learned of an old horse that had been found wandering in South Hobart and had been brought to Linda's farm. She offered to look after it, as we had some acreage and a horse, although there was very little grass. The old horse was probably over 30, but once or twice we took him riding and he seemed to enjoy it, although I must admit he was so old it was a bit much for him. Eventually Mum kept him in a yard by the house where she fed him kitchen scraps and quality horse supplements, as he seemed to have trouble eating hay. He died within a year. There were many animals that were left with no feed or paddock fences after the fire, and for weeks volunteers were sought to take vehicles and lawn clippings to the domain where the grass was loaded and delivered for stock feed. Local TV footage caught a shot of my sister trampling down grass on the back of Dad's ute to get a full load before setting off to volunteers. The property, the turning, was also threatened by the 2006 Mean Range fire after I was living there. In contrast, the firefighting and organisation could not have been greater. Firefighting techniques and expertise have come a long way. It's a tribute to Tasmania's excellent fire brigade and also volunteers that we could feel safe when fire danger threatened in 2006. The Humpy celebrated its 100th birthday in 2005 and the Turning House celebrated its 100th birthday in 2010. They've certainly been survivors in difficult times.